Good morning, Besta. How are you? It's nice and sunny today here in Ohio. Hi, Peg. Good morning. If you're jumping on, please let us know where you're watching from. Hi, Marilyn. Hi, Lori. And good, Besta. I'm glad to hear that. Hi, Linda. Okay, so today's going to be a lot of fun. And it actually is stemming from a post that I shared during the week when someone got a hold of me, Lori got a hold of me, and she was asking me about contrast and picking out how do you pick your colors, and just trying to get more comfortable with that. There was so many great responses, and I loved the conversation that was going on in that thread. And I thought, let's take it from just a thread and let's actually put it to work when we go to select our papers for today's card. Today's card's a nice, easy layout, a layering layout, but you'll get to see how those colors play together. Okay, so I just thought, let's just keep that conversation going because it was so much fun. I really enjoy taking notes because I learned so much from everybody else. I don't have all the answers, and all I can go by is my own experience. And in the realm of experience, I know there's a lot more out there who have more of that than me. So I have as much to learn as maybe I can share with somebody, and it might stick with them. So Jean, hello, thank you for sharing. Hi, Barb and Stephanie. I know I missed some names as I was talking. I saw things scrolling, so if I missed you, I'm sorry, but good morning, and I'll go back and read the comments later. So while I am flipping the camera around, say good morning to each other, and this is only going to take a few seconds to get this set up. So hold on. I always got to look at my widgets here and like, where am I? Okay. I'll let you gaze at this beautiful paper while I'm switching some things around here. I just got a box in the mail. And once I opened the designer series paper for the Xenia collection, or Xenia. My mom always pronounced it Xenia. A lot of my friends pronounce it Xenia. So I'm not really sure which one is the correct way to say it, but this is going to be a very popular designer series paper and bundle. So I just wanted you to see it because while we're talking contrast and color, I thought, boy, this could not have arrived at a better time because this is just beautiful. I know I'll be getting my hands on it. I'm going to feel sorry for the rest of my designer series paper because it's really going to get slighted. This paper is so much fun to work with. It's one of the, there have been designer series papers that really have made me fall in love with them because they remind me of fabric. This one is just at the top. So I just want to show you the paper really quick. Hi, Anne. Tony says she just got hers yesterday. So if you're seeing that people are commenting that they got theirs, it's because as demonstrators we got to pre-order. So this paper and the bundle, the new things like that will be available in the 1st of March for customers. But as demonstrators, we got to order a little early. So let's take a look at this gorgeous paper. I am like just so excited. The one thing that I was hoping for, and it does, unless I missed it somewhere, the dies don't cut out any images in the designer series paper. I might have missed it, but I was playing with, I don't know if any of these centers will, but I was looking at outline dies and I couldn't find one that worked with the paper, but that's okay. These images are large. Fussy cutting is not going to be a problem here. So I just want to take you and show you this gorgeous paper. And I'm already seeing quilts. I mean, that's all. Oh my goodness. So this is one side. This is the A side. And this is the B side to this sheet of designer series paper. Absolutely gorgeous. So there's one page. And we always love when we get a sheet of this paper in a designer series paper, because it's really easy to cut it in half and you'll take a little off the bottoms, but you can get panels for the front of a card, and all you need to do is throw a sentiment on it. So love this. And this is the B side. Oh my gosh, you guys, the patterns and the colors are so yummy. I just cannot wait to play with this. So that is A and B side to that one. This paper, this one right here, to me, this screams, use me as a quilt backing. I just love it. And then here's the B side to it. Just love, love, love. This beautiful paper is just like tone on tone. Well, not really tone on tone, but the colors are, you can just see how it fades into it. Oh my, on the computer it looks totally different. I love it. What you see and what I am seeing are two different things. So I'm just going to zip it on what I thought I was going to say, because the computer is totally proving me wrong. And then here is the B side. Isn't it stunning? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, you guys. Now, these two sheets, this is the A side and this is the B side. As if I am in quilting mode with fabric, I am looking at this as bias binding. Now, there it does not look as bright on the computer. The computer, my computer right now, the colors look duller than what they are in person. This is very bright and cheerful. But what my thought was is bias binding with these two patterns. If I was looking at this, you know, like what am I going to bind my quilt with? Because I love stripes and things of that kind of swirl when you do bias binding to finish off your quilt. I love fabrics like that. So I could see these two, again, if I'm thinking quilts, as my binding, but this also could be the outside edge of your quilt card if you do just a thin peekaboo border, even 1/4 of an inch to mimic binding. So these are really, really nice. And then here's another full page of zinnias. And look at this beautiful purple pattern here. This is just like the most awesome designer series pack ever, because for me it screams quilting, it screams quilt cards, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So you know, if you do want to get it now and you don't want to wait, if you get the starter kit, you get to pick you can pick as you know, the pre-order items to put in your starter kit. So you can always ask me more about that if that's something. I mean, if to me, like if you're gonna spend what the starter kit's gonna cost, you know, we can talk. You can get a hold of me, but I just wanted to let you know that this is going to tear if I keep trying to put it in there, that you can get the pre-order items in your starter kit if that's the way you want to go. And you would also get, you have the option of the Glass Mat Studio, which you see probably a lot of demonstrators using in their lives. And if you don't want the Glass Mat Studio, you can get some more product instead. So let's get back to what we're doing today. Good morning, everybody. That paper, oh, I just cannot get over it. And we've got a bunch of running around to do today after the live, so I'm not going to get to play with it right away. Amanda, you are the first one I thought of when I saw those colors. I'm like, Amanda is going to flip over this. So, you know, it's just amazing, amazing paper. Okay, hi, Christine. So, the conversation that we had going on in the thread, there was some things that I had written down that, again, I don't have all the answers. I know what works for me when I am looking at putting papers and colors together, and I didn't learn that until, you know, I was sewing and doing quilts and going into quilt shops. And like I had mentioned, I would see a bolt of fabric and think I've got to have it, and then I'm carrying it around for an hour in the quilt shop trying to make it work. So a lot of times if you pick that bolt of fabric or that sheet of designer series paper that has several colors going on in it, it's easier to start there and pull those colors in than to start with a more solid color and try to make it work with, okay, so what's my busier pattern going to be, and things like that. But here, I just want to read some things. Deborah had mentioned, look at the B side of DSP. Very good point, because often the B side is a calmer pattern or even color than the A side. So always look on the B side of your designer series paper to see what is offered there. And then Terry posted a pic of a color wheel. I have that color wheel. And even though the colors are not true to what is offered today, you can get the same idea, and it will still give you a stepping off point in looking at color. Kara, give yourself permission to play. Absolutely. It's the one thing I always forget to tell myself, because I am always just thinking it's got to work out right the very first time. Or my mind's eye doesn't say that will work. Well, I don't really know. It's what my eye was telling me. But what if I play and some of the great surprises have come out of just playing? And don't be afraid to mix your designer series paper up. It doesn't have to stay from one collection. As long as it's a color that you're looking at, see whatever you got in your stash. And then, this is funny, because I have two Karas that, and I hope that I'm pronouncing it right. You might pronounce it different. But there's two Karas, one with a C, one with a K. And I thought, well, I'll just put their last initial behind them, but they're both S's. So Kara Sum and Kara Stahl had some good comments. And Kara Stahl had shown us some pictures that she took of her quilts. And you can do the same thing with your designer series paper. Lay them out and take a picture of them on your phone. A lot of times what we see with our eye and what the lens picked up can show you the difference that you didn't pick up on your own. And you might right away yank out something that you can right away see does not work. Or what if I move it? So pictures are always a good way to help you make your decisions. at quilt retreats, I would do that often. I would lay out my fabrics and take pictures, and then when I saw the picture, I'm like, oh, that color doesn't play very well there. And so it's just another tool. Use your phone as a tool. Doris's maternal grandmother was a professional seamstress, and Doris explains her grandmother's process. And here's what I liked about Doris's point is, what we think about fabric holds true for paper. I look at my DSP as if it's on a bolt and it's in a quilt shop. So fabric and paper, you can look at them the same way. Okay. The fun thing is on paper we get a B-side. Fabric, the back side, especially with batiks, is fun because it may be a little bit more subtle and the colors change a little bit. And it's true with other cottons. Sometimes the wrong side is actually interesting. And I've used the wrong side before in when I needed something maybe a little bit more calmed down. So it's not to say you can't use the wrong side of a yard of fabric, but with designer series paper, we know that we've got that offered to us. So, and then Chris, she taught crafts through a community ed program. And what she learned from just observing the children and how they weren't afraid to play with color is something that as adults we need to do. We need to play just like children and not be afraid of color and putting things together. If it works, great. If it doesn't, it's all a learning process, but don't be afraid to play with color. And another point that she made that I took note of was how black and white, those two colors can tie in the rest of what you are looking at. So I thought that was a really good point. So those were just some talking points that I wanted to mention. And now we're gonna put all of those things together, and you're gonna help me pick out the colors that I need, or not need, but we're gonna see what plays with. Let me bring my stack over here. I already picked out what I wanted my focal paper to be. Now keep in mind, we're going to be using a 2 3/8 by 4 1/4. That's as big as your swatch is going to be for your card. So the bigger the pattern, when you cut it down smaller, you could lose a lot of the colors that you saw going on, but it works for a large piece, but when you cut it down smaller, you just lost maybe 2 or 3 colors. So keep that in mind. So this is the sheet I'm going to be working with because I've already made sample cards from the other sheets of this designer series paper, and I didn't want to repeat it. I wanted to make these 2 cards different from the ones that I'm going to show you. So this is the sheet of designer series paper that I want to pick what my colors are going to be, and I only need 2 other colors to bring out in the card layout. Now if you've got a lot of color going on here, then think of those other colors as maybe your card base, or bring in one of those other colors as we're going to layer our designer series paper on a couple of cardstock mats. So think of, okay, I'll just save that color and see if it works for the mat that I need, or will it work as a card base. Okay, so let's look at what I pulled out that will work with the sheet that I just showed you. So we have crumb cake, And this is all from the Perennial Lavender Designer Series paper. I think it's easier to start to learn with a collection, because what Stampin' Up! Has done already is they have color coordinated the paper so that it all works well with each other. But we need to narrow it down. We don't need 12 different designs and colors. We need to narrow it down. So what I did was I pulled out what colors I saw happening in, let's see, let's get this all in here. These are colors that I saw happening in this piece right here. Let me slide this over a little bit. Okay, so those are the colors that I saw going on. Now, we want to look for contrast. So what I would do is I would take my main piece and I would just, you know, start laying it right on top of things. Okay, here's something. Let's look at this. Look at how close these two are. Okay, am I buffering? Let me, okay, I'm not buffering now. Okay, so look at how close these are. This is getting lost into this sheet here. So I am going to set this, I'm taking this one out. It's too close to what I've got picked out, okay? And so that narrows it down. And, oh, also I pulled in some colors from the Poetic Expressions Designer Series paper. When Karen and Holly and Deb and I did card play, we worked with 2 paper packs in our make and takes. And the reason why I brought these in is because these are also colors that I could pull out of this sheet of Perennial Lavender. So I am going to tie these in also. And, okay, can we get this all on screen here? I need to see comments, because if you're going to help me, it's not going to do me any good if I can't see comments. Okay. So, just looking, okay, here's another one I think I can rule out. Many of you will say, get it out of there because it's wild wheat, and you don't like wild wheat. Well, you know what? This doesn't work. So I am going to get rid of this one. This is a process of elimination, okay? But it's more fun to work with a lot so that you've got options, okay? Let's just work from left to right. Okay, let's look at this one. I like that together. I love that the greens here are pulling out the darker greens there, and you've got contrast with the crumb cake background. Okay, so this to me is an option. I'm going to set that aside. What about that? What do you think? Too close, or does it have enough contrast? So Karen, you like the, oh goodness, this is like a Lost Lagoon. It is in the leaves. I love the texture. I hope that I'm in the same time you are, but y'all are saying no. Okay, so let's get rid of that one. Let's look at this green. Ooh, look how pretty. First of all, does it have contrast? Can you noticeably see that these two are different? One is not muddying into the other. It's got great contrast. So let's keep it. Okay, let's put it over here with our other green. Let's play with our purples. Let's do this one. A lot of contrast. Does it work? I think it works. It actually tones down. Look at this. Look at the brighter purple. This one is more calming. This one is very bold. Does this one have a lot of contrast? Yes, it's got way more contrast than the lighter purple. But what feel are you going for? Okay, both of these will work. So if this lighter one is A and the darker one is B, well, you know what? They both work. We're going to set them both aside because depending on what our other color is, we will decide on which one of those two colors work. Now, I know you're saying, okay, that this is the same color that's going on in the background, but look at this. Look what the, is this gingham? Y'all, is this gingham? There's definite contrast here. The pattern is very complementary to this sheet here. But what do you think? Vesta's not a fan of the beige. The gingham or checks is a possibility. Susan says she likes this one the best. So let's put this to the side because it's still in play. It's still in play. We were going to narrow this down. What about these two? Do you think that this one is too similar? I can see contrast. It is similar. Keep in mind that we're going to be using some smaller pieces when we go to layers. So sometimes something that is a little close can still work. No, yes, yes. Susan says it's drab. Roxanne says there's not enough contrast. Barbara says no. Well, you know what? We've picked out a beige. So I'm okay with setting this aside. I can't tell you how many times I set aside a no and brought it back in when I'm narrowing down what I'm going to use, okay? So, just because it's a no right now doesn't mean that it can't be brought back in. Okay, so we only need two other colors. Now, let's bring in our yeses, and we want our yeses to play well together too. Well, this has contrast to every single one of these sheets. So, and look, okay, I say that. Look how close these colors are to each other. Look at how close, and that when you put these two together, do you really see that you would want to put those together, or are they running into each other and you've lost what you were looking for? Okay. Because I have just this one beige, should we keep the beige and decide, are we going to go green or are we going to go purple? Are we keeping the beige? When you look at what you've got left to play with, are we keeping the beige? Okay, so I got a yes. Remove the solid purple, the dark solid purple. Vesta's like, no beige. Oh my goodness, you guys are answering so fast. Okay. For right now, let's keep the beige, the gingham. Okay. Now, Now let's go purple or green, because once we know if we're going purple or green, we can get 2 more out of the way. So purple or green, the first 3 out of 5 I see we're going to go with. Right now the question is just purple or green. Okay, Carol, that's a purple. Purple, purple, purple. Okay, we're going to take the green out. That's okay, because it doesn't mean you can't go back and make another card with that, because you'll get to see what you're doing here. Okay, so when I'm looking at these, I'm going to move my purples to the other side of my main piece. I don't need them over here with the beige anymore. Now it's a decision what we want to use here. And you can see that this is hanging out there, and that's okay, because it'll show you the contrast that these 2 sheets have with that one. So, are we going with the light purple or the dark purple? Okay, I got a dark. The solid is a dark. Let's get a few more. Barbara says I like both. Okay, so the dark is 3. Okay, so we're going to get rid of this one. So these are the 3 sheets that we're going to work with our card. And I think you made really great choices here. And to go back in and make another card and bring in the green, absolutely, because it's going to work. We just had to make a decision. Are we going green or are we going purple? But do you see the contrast? If I put our main paper in the middle and put what we've chosen on either side, it works. And my eye can distinguish each and every sheet here. One is not running into the other, and my eye just sees, it just keeps moving because there's no reason for my eye to stop. Okay? And again, you guys, this is just how I do it when I talk. This is what helps me select what colors and prints and patterns that I'm using. I'm just showing you mine. My method to my madness. So this is just how I do it. So we're going to go with these. How many of you have your papers picked out? And what I'd like to know is how many of you still have what you were going to use the first time, or did it change once you started mixing them around? It is a very calming color palette here. It's very comforting. It's very calming. These colors can be used for many different occasions when it's coming to what is your sentiment going to be. I can see this as a sympathy card, a birthday card, thinking of you. This really kind of goes all over. Okay, Linda's ready. Nothing changed for Kathleen. That's awesome. Okay. And Vesta, are you saying that you changed your colors when you say me? Sharon says nope. Sharon's sticking to what she had. Okay. So this is so much fun. I love it. I like this interaction that we can have with each other to figure this out. Okay, let's cut some paper. Okay, let's get this out of the way. So bring in your trimmer. Now, have a piece of paper and a pen next to you, because I'm going to give you the dimensions, the cutting instructions. And right after this live, I've got a post scheduled that will have the cutting instructions, all the dimensions, that will post on the Chirpy page after the live. Okay, it's scheduled to post at 12:30. Let's do our cutting first, because we have another color decision that we have to make when it comes to the color of our mats. But bring in your main piece. Now, I am making my card in portrait mode, so I am going to have, I'm putting my paper in my trimmer this way with the pattern being vertical because that's the orientation I'm going with. If you want to make this a landscape card, then you're going to want to turn your paper so that you're cutting in landscape. Okay, but I'm going portrait. Okay, it's easier like the first time around for me to do portrait, and then I can play around with landscape. So we're going to number our designer series paper. This is number 1. Then number 2, let me just show you the card so that you know, so that you're not guessing. And this is done with the greens. Okay, so our top, let me show you both of these because all I did was change around 2 and 3. And you can see how different they look. But your number 1 designer series paper, that is your focal paper, and you want this to be 2 3/8 by 4 1/4. Okay, so 2 3/8, and 3/8 is between 1/4 and 1/2. So 2 3/8 by 4 1/4. Okay, I'm going to save that because I'm going to I'll end up making 2 cards, because if you're going to cut 1 card base, you're really making 2. So think about making 2 cards instead of 1. So this is DSP number 1. Number 2, we're just going to work from the top down. Number 2 is going to be your band right here. So out of these 2, you just, I'm going to make the card, I'm making 2 cards. So I'm going to switch up 2 and 3 anyway. Okay, so let's do the purple first, and that number 2 is 1 1/2 by 4. So what I think I'm going to do is, so that I can keep this at a 4 and use whatever's left over for another card, maybe a layer, I'm going to cut it at 4 instead of 1 1/2, because I'll use the remainder of this piece a lot sooner than I will if I have just a strip, a 1 1/2 inch strip. So basically what it comes down to, your leftover piece. Do you want a long skinny piece, or do you want one already at 4 inches, which is a number that we use a lot in our layering? Well, I'm going to go with the 4. And then here's that piece. Okay, so we got this going on. Now, number 3 is 3 5/8 by 4 7/8. And the reason why I've got these kind of measurements is because my mat's going to be 3 3/4 by 5. And this needs just to be a little bit smaller to fit inside that. So 3 5/8, which 5/8 is between 1/2 and 3/4. And 4 7/8. 4 7/8 is between 4 3/4 and 5. Okay. So now when I look at this and I layer it, it's going to look just like that. Now, when you're looking at this right away, I know what you're like, okay, so these 2 beiges go together. You're probably wanting a little color to separate those 2, right? Well, here's our next decision. Set this aside for a second. I'm going to bring in some cardstock that is in colors that I see in that focal point. I've got Starry Sky. I've got Pretty Peacock, Crumb Cake. Although I probably won't use crumb cake because I've got crumb cake in 2 pieces of my designer series paper. So I'm going to toss crumb cake out. Now, that little peekaboo border is going to be not on your middle band, but you're going to use it for these 2 pieces here. Nah, I don't like that. Somebody else say they don't like that. I don't like the starry sky. I love that starry sky is in there, but I think I'm going to let that stand on its own. So I'm only down to 1 now. And there are other colors I could have used, but I've already used those colors in the samples that I'm going to show you. So I wanted to bring in a different color. And now these are just scraps of cardstock. But I think that that is really nice for both of these. It's a color that breaks up the 2 colors that'll be sitting close to each other. Do you see that? So now you'll see that when we layer this onto here with that little bit of a border around it, it separates the 2 beiges and it works. Okay, so we're going to go with Pretty Peacock's going to be my layers. And bring back in the trimmer. Your layer for your focal point is just an 1/8 of an inch bigger. So this is going to be 2.5 by 4 3/8. Well, this isn't going to be wide enough the other way, but I can go 4 3/8 and get a 2.5 out of this one. Okay. So that is going to layer onto here. And look at how pretty, that little tiny border, it sets this pattern down. It sits it down. It stops your eye from wandering because it's got that little bit of a border. So it gives you time to really take a look at it. Okay, and now we need a mat for this piece, and that is 3 3/4 by 5. This is the one that we use a lot of if we're not using 4 by 5 1/4. If you step down 1/4 of an inch, if that's how you're layering, then this is one you'll see that is used quite a bit. So those pieces will go in my scrap bin. And now, if I put this like that, look at how pretty that sets that beige. And I just set this down. Now, this rectangle piece here, your top and bottom should be even spacing, your sides even spacing, and you'll notice that they're not the same width, okay? So if that's what you were thinking they were going to be, for this card, they're not. I wanted things to be a little different. Okay, so, but see how putting that Pretty Peacock behind there separates these 2 beiges, and now what you might have thought wasn't going to work, works because you've got a color that separates them. Okay, so now we've got the pieces for our card, and we can start putting it together. Now, I was looking for some ways, because this is a simple layout, what are some ways we could step it up? And for me, one way that I found that I wanted to do was I wanted to wrap the edges of this piece that's going to go across the middle. Now you can move this anywhere you want, but I'm going to do it about the middle. And I want that wrapped look. It's just a little tiny, to me, like attention to detail. You can cut this off if you want. You can butt it up to the edge and cut the extra off. But because it's such a simple layout, I was looking for areas that I can step it up a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some glue down. I'm not going to go all the way to the end because I want to wrap it. I just need it enough that it'll secure it to that bottom layer. And then I'm just going to wrap it around, and I have tape somewhere. Where did my tape go? I'm going to just use some Scotch tape. That's a little itty bitty piece to fold over. Again, it went back to what, you know, the size of designer series paper I was going to have as a scrap left over. What size am I more likely to use that for? If you've got a longer scrap, then go ahead and make it longer so that you have more to wrap around. Whoops. Okay, I don't want you. I don't want you sticking out beyond there. So can you see how by wrapping it, it just gives it a nice finished edge instead of seeing the white where you cut it off? I just thought that this was a nice opportunity just to step it up a little bit. So that's what I did. You don't have to do that. So once that's done, let's go ahead and let's layer this piece onto that cardstock mat that we picked, and we're working with Pretty Peacock. And this is going to be just a very narrow border. Once you're done making the card, you can go back and you can adjust all the sizes. You can change it up, make things bigger or smaller. So there's that piece. Is that wonky? It's a little wonky. Oh well, par for the course. And then let's go ahead and let's put this piece down. So again, this is a very simple layout, but it's going to help. It helps us in the process of finding contrast. And you can apply the same thought when you're looking at what pieces of designer series paper you want to use for a quilt block. That very beginning, just going through the process of finding contrast will then help you with your quilt blocks. And then that's going to set right there. See how now it looks totally different than when we first started, because of that, just that little border of Pretty Peacock sets everything down. It actually brings everything together. Now I'm going to use basic white thick for my card base. I'm using white. I had used white on all my samples, and I just loved the comment about, you know, black or white bringing things together, and it really does. So there is the front part of our card. So I'm going to bring in my card base. I used the Heartfelt Hexagon Bundle to stamp and punch out some sentiments. Now you can if you're an avid crafter, you can certainly find a lot of areas on this card that you could put more things on it. I am trying to stay true to what I set out at the beginning of the year, was to find I I'm getting all tongue-tied. I wanted to fall in the middle of the road. And so I guess that's a casual stamper or card maker. And I think if you're in the middle of the road, it still gives you that opportunity to add more if you're the avid stamper and you want more layers. Well, you can certainly keep going. My goal was for simple, quick to put together cards, but with the layers and contrasts that it would just step it up enough for me. So on my samples I'll show you, I haven't done anything with the inside or the back. That's room for you to play some more. You know me, I'm going to put something on the back of my card. The weight of this card, it's not too heavy. So I think I will just leave, because I'm going to put something on the back. I don't think I'm going to put a layer on the inside, but that is subject to change. So, I mean, you know, you can figure out the rest of the card from here. But I just wanted, the lesson was contrast. And look at how pretty this contrast is. So if that's what you're looking for, trying to pull colors that work well together and you know, they don't bleed into each other, that was what the lesson was. Now, before we look at sentiments, I just want to show you something. Let's bring in our trimmer, and I want to switch those two pieces around. So what was the band? What did I just do with it? Okay. So let's make the gingham. I'm going to cut this at 4 and then 1.5. Let's make the gingham the middle. And let's bring in that dark purple, and that is going to be 3 5/8 by 4 7/8. So I'm going to do the 4 7/8 first. Three and 5/8. Just going to trim a little bit off of there. And I'm just going to lay this down here. And then our focal point stays the same, 2 3/8 by 4 1/4. So I know this is already 2 3/8. I just need a 4 1/4. And I'm going to go ahead and cut my mats. And one was 3 3/4 by 5. We'll just layer these up. But so that you can see how just changing those two pieces gives you now a totally different look. Now you would think, okay, wow, pretty peacock and the purple, they're pretty close together, right? And they are. It doesn't always mean that two colors close together can't work. All we're trying to do is lay that down and stop our eye. And then this other piece is 2.5 by 4 3/8. Okay. So if we bring this in, and then that, and then our focal point. Look how different the two are just by changing up the second and the third layer. So the contrast is there. We solved the contrast when we went through the process of picking out our papers. But what we started with was everything that we saw color that matched, so we pulled it all out, and then our first thing was find your first color that works with your focal paper. And then once you've decided on that second color, then you need the third color. Okay, so I will put this card together after the live. Let's go back and I want to keep this simple. Okay, so here I've got let's see, cake for you. Hope your day is filled with joy. The other sentiments are sending you lots of love and hugs, sympathy, a Mr. and Mrs. And I've used those in the samples that I'm going to show you. So what I had left over were these. And what I want to do, as I showed you in my, when I brought in these, again, what I like is things that are not exactly where, you know, everything lines up. I like things off-centered. So I'm thinking of putting, I hope your day is filled with joy. These colors, I think, work so well because if someone is going through a hard time, it doesn't have to be a loss. It could just be a struggle that they're having. The colors are very calming, and I just feel like I'm meeting that person where they may be, but I'm hopefully cheering them up and giving them some hope with the card and the colors that in the card, just to, you know, just to give them that little bit of lift that they may need. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to glue down. I mean, I can glue this whole thing down, but sometimes what you find is when you've got layers that when you glue it down, the one side is going to not lay flat. This really is not an issue. There are not so many layers that I would have to put a dimensional behind this one side. For me, it's just as easy just to put my fingers where I don't want glue because I know this is going to hang off. And then I'll just put, well, maybe I'll just put my glue over here. And then just kind of straighten that up a little bit. So the part that's hanging off my layers, it's not a big deal. You could put a dimensional behind there if you wanted to. Don't use a really thick dimensional because now you're going to be lopsided on this side. So there is room for a mini dimensional. I did use them on some of the other ones, but for me it's fine just hanging off of there. And then the only other thing that I need to decide on to keep it simple is what I want to use for embellishing. And I'm really, now see here, I could bring in this pool party with these, but there's not a lot of pool parties showing, so I'm not going to use those. I'm really partial to the brass butterflies at this point, so I think because they've got butterflies in the paper, I'm going to keep that feel going. And who can't a butterfly cheer up, right? Let's put a brass butterfly there. Maybe we'll put one sitting on top of the Queen Anne's lace. And let's put another one. And here's another thing. I've been working in 2s lately instead of 3s. Don't ask me why, but I have been. maybe put some gold over here in this purple. Oh my goodness, I hope y'all didn't hear my stomach just rumble. Maybe put that, look at how that gold pops on the purple. Or the brass, not gold. But here, just a simple card. And I'll tell you, these go together so quick once you've got your pieces picked out. The cutting and the layering, it all goes really quick. So, just very, very simple, but I think a really good lesson in contrast. So, here were the first two that I showed you. You know what? I've got a piece of vellum from out of a book to get that glare off of there. So here's the same papers. Okay. So there's the same papers for those. I've got one in green, since you didn't pick green. For the green people, I got you covered. Oh wait, those are green. Those are green. Oh, we worked with purple. Okay. Sorry about that. But here's a different green. This is actually the green that's from the Poetic Expressions Designer Series paper. Again, some brass butterflies or some of the purple gems. And then I thought, what if we bring our background? Right now, what we've been working with is our focal paper being to the front. It's the very first thing that you see. But what if we worked backwards again? And we put our busy Designer Series paper to the back, and a piece that we normally would sit behind, bring that to the front. Now, I don't know if I'm totally a fan, but I went back to the statement about give yourself permission to play and not be afraid of color. So I gave myself permission to play, and here I picked Pool Party as my layering colors instead of a darker color. So just to show you how it looks different when the busier pattern is in the background instead of the foreground. I think this is this would work really well with masculine cards, because you can bring that plainer paper, you know, something that's not too florally, to the front, and then let your flower colors work in the back, because they are getting covered up, and sometimes you can tell that they're flowers and sometimes you can't. So what was something I mentioned last week, that every time I do a Thursday live, I wanted to work on some Christmas cards. Well, these aren't done, okay, but I did go in and pull out some of the some holiday Designer Series paper, and I did a couple of Christmas cards. Got a little bit of bling in the middle of the poinsettias, but they're not done. But the goal was to make 2 Christmas cards, or even 1 Christmas card every week, so that I would have a stash when I got done, or closer to the holidays, right? Because here the last couple of years, it's December 10th and I'm finally making Christmas cards. So again, look at the contrast between the 3 colors. And even in this one here, the cherry cobbler being the color of the mat helps break up these 2 colors. And plus the Designer Series paper, this isn't all like a mossy meadow. There are some brighter greens in it also. So that helps helps with how it works together too, because they're not too darks. They're actually got different shades in there. So this was the lesson for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that it helped you to see it play out, instead of just reading what everyone has suggested, what they do when they're in that process of choosing their papers. There is no right or wrong way. However, you can put colors together that are just too close to each other and there isn't any contrast. Putting a color in between can help. So there is no right or wrong. You just have to play. But I hope that this gives you the confidence that you were looking for in choosing your designer series papers. And one other thing that I want to talk about is there's a community group that I created called Quilt Cards and More, and you can find that link from the main page. What I want to say about this group is that I created it so that it would be when I say a safe place, what I mean is I was really shy about sharing anything I made because you always compare yourself to other people and you're wondering if anybody would like it. So I wanted a place where people felt comfortable to share the cards that they make, even quilts, anything that you make, to help give you a confidence in sharing. And we have done that like 10 times over. I am so proud of everybody that's in that group. The inspiration, not only do they give when they share, but how they lift the people up who did share, the compliments, the encouragement. I am so proud of this group, you guys. It makes me want to cry. But the whole purpose is to have that place for someone who feels confident enough that they want to share, and they're glad that they did. So please check out that group. There are so many cards shared over there, you guys. Oh my goodness. When we do a live, that's where those who have made their own cards from what they saw, they'll post them over there. Can you believe how many pinwheel blocks were shared last week? I thought that was the best thing ever. There are so many different pinwheels and just a lot of inspiration going on. So please check out the group Quilt Cards and More. Answer the few questions in the process of asking to join. And then just be amazed and about all the creativity that's being shared there, and also take note of how uplifting everyone is to each other, and then just step out of your comfort circle, your zone, and share something with us. We would love to see it. Okay, so I'm going to let everybody go. Thank you so much for spending your Thursday morning with me, and I can't wait to see what will be shared over in the group. Okay, if you have any questions, let me know. It should have already posted all the cutting instructions that I have over here on my cheat sheet. That should be in a post right now on the Chirpy page, okay? So have a good afternoon, everybody, and have a very blessed day, and I will be talking with you later. And Lori, thank you so much for reaching out to me when you had the question about putting papers together. Your question probably helped a lot of people. So thank you for asking. Okay, you guys, I'm going to let you go. Bye.